Freunden. Welcome to This Week I'm Learning, the podcast where we all get together and discuss the latest ideas that have been rattling around in our head for the last week, or in some cases, the last few hours. This is episode 85, for real this time, recorded April 11th, 2022, and I'm your host, Brandon Vader, also known as Captain Dracanis. We finally have Cody back! Cody! Just for the week, unfortunately.
For temps.
Yep.
For temps.
I'm doing classes in the morning, so yeah.
Yep. And then we lose him to Ty again. But that's all right. Cody Stratman, also known as Psychonitrous. Down below him in the corner, we've got Tim Rhind, also known as Fake Farang. And down below me, we've got Colton Roper, also known as Seeker4761, which is the amount of horsepower my new laptop has. It's so glorious.
You got your fancy framework?
I did.
That's a lot
And it's
of horses
wonderful.
on a laptop.
It is. I am highly impressed because only 15 minutes before we started doing kind of the prep for the podcast, that's when Windows was installed on it, and I am using it to record because the NVMe drive that went into it is the 2 terabyte drive out of my desktop. It's hooked up to the eGPU dock, which is the 2070 Super out of my desktop. So I was kind of just jumping out of the plane and assembling a parachute from parts on the way down and hoping it would work, and it fucking works, and it's beautiful.
Oh yeah.
I love it.
New toys.
Yes.
Fuck
Always
to
a
the
good
yeah, motherfucker.
I love that analogy. I love that analogy.
That's what I was thinking as I was doing this. Okay, if this fails, what tools do I have to quickly get stuff put together to be able to do this podcast? But I didn't have to, so yay.
Woo! Ta.
But
Hell yeah.
yeah, so this is going to be a kind of back to our normal episode where we've got 3 people in a rotation. I am going to be the peanut gallery this time, so it's going to be Colton, Tim, and Cody presenting.
Okay.
So
I can introduce Tody's topic, and his topic was so wrong. Let's hear. Was you so wrong?
I definitely was so wrong. But Colton is going to tell us about he is emerging from the place.
Does any? Come on, someone's got to know this. You're on the
This
internet.
Sounds creepy. Emerging from the place.
Place? You uncultured swine. But who isn't an uncultured swine is Tim, and he's going to talk about how it's such a simple choice that takes no effort to really think about, but it turns out not simple at all, I assume.
Yep. Yep. And I hope it's not too long for you all. So,
Fine.
well,
It's
sure.
fine.
You have to give me some time.
Yeah.
I think it's something you guys, many techies are already used to, but somebody coming. Oh, I don't want to give away too much. Okay, you can just wait.
Cody, take us away.
So,
I got no shoulders.
remember how a few episodes ago I was like, Ty's cool because, if you have a letter, it only makes that sound, and that's it. So by reading something that, what letter it will make. I was such a naive little boy back then.
Were you so wrong?
I was so wrong.
The
So,
wrongest.
I'm going to share my screen for a moment, actually more than a moment, several moments, many moments. So you gentlemen can see what I'm seeing, and Colton may just edit this in at the end. We'll see. The magic. and
Magic
power.
of editing.
Exactly. All right.
Be descriptive for the audio only listeners if you can.
What I have in front of me, can everybody see it, first of all?
Let's see if it loads.
No.
Yes.
Okay. So what
Yes.
I have in front of me is a page out of my textbook. I was going to write all these out, but it was like right before the podcast, and I realized I had not prepared because I had gotten breakfast early. Long story. Anyway. So these are the Thai vowels, as an example. So you have long vowels and short vowels. Now, this is different from English, because when you say a long vowel and a short vowel in English, you mean that the vowel changes the way that it sounds. It doesn't mean that you pronounce it for a longer or shorter amount of time. In Thai, when you say long or short, it means the length of time that you pronounce that vowel. For instance, the first one here, this is like double A, which looks like a nice, lovely candy cane. That is an ah. Okay? So, or it's an ah. So, So, and the reason that there are two here is because whether it's at the end of a syllable, which would be this one, or in the middle of a syllable, which would be this one right here. These dashes represent other letters because you cannot have a vowel just by itself in Thai. It always has to be attached to a consonant. So, E, or, yeah, E, or oo. Notice there's a difference once between or oo. So, oo or oo. Like making the actual A sound. This one is like that. A or A. And you get the point. So again, these, you use this symbol if it's the end, or if it has another consonant afterwards versus if the syllable ends with that vowel instead. So you can see these various vowels. I can keep going through it.
I was going to say our audio listeners certainly cannot see it.
Okay. The audio listeners cannot see it, which is unfortunate, very unfortunate for the topic that I have chosen today.
But you get to listen to Cody make all sorts of weird and funny noises.
So, and then once you get into, so this one is like EH kind of is the way I would describe this one in English.
For our audio listeners who have had any sort of music class, the past two syllables have looked like the flat sign.
True, actually. Or if you're like an above average student, but only barely, that would be like a B minus. Looks like a B minus.
But lowercase.
B minus. Yeah, but a little B minus.
Nothing wrong with the B minus.
So you have and depending on, again, this column is if it is at the if it has a consonant after that sound, where this column right here is. So what we're really looking at right now is 3 or 4 different columns, and the first column is the long version that you can hear me pronouncing, which is, again, the length of time, not like English where it's ah, like an O, where it's ah or O, where those are two different vowels in Thai. Like it's again, there's like English still has more ambiguity when you see a letter of what sound that letter is going to make. However, today I'm going to go into the many, many, many exceptions in Thai regarding that. So on my next slide here, which is actually just me taking a picture of my Book's tablet as I was writing things. I just want to make sure everybody can still see this since I technically changed Windows. Okay. So you have this consonant right here, which is an rarua. Depending on how you pronounce it.
It looks like a 5 with a little curly Q.
Yeah. So that makes an R sound. Or Hispanic listeners can be more familiar with, it makes that kind of sound, but a lot of Thai people don't still pronounce it that way.
Like krap,
How exactly? Like krap.
rot, rot,
Ro- Yep. Now, if you have two raruas together, it doesn't make an R sound. It makes an. So this word is rot bantuk. Okay.
How about sometimes does it make an L sound at all?
Uh,
Because some
if you have a single rarua, R's and
See here.
L's, kind of. Now here's also some exceptions, and I didn't organize my notes very well because I should have actually started with this. So some of the first exceptions you come across in Thai is if you have a word, gan, or like here's like one of the most common words in Thai that you will hear, which is ahan, ahan, which actually ends with a ra rua. But as you could hear me, I did not say ahar. I said ahan, because if it ends in an ra rua, it actually makes an N sound. If the syllable ends in a laling, so the equivalent to an L, that also makes an N sound. If it ends in a character called a ya ying, which typically would make a Y sound, it makes an N sound. Now there's a different Y in Thai that actually does make a Y sound at the end, which is a ya yak.
I'm just wondering if this is related to. I know that there's a lot of words in Thai that, when they transliterate it into English, they may have an R, but when Thai speak it, they seem to change it to an L, or vice versa.
Yeah, or they leave the R out together. So, and I'll go directly to that. So there's a symbol in Thai, which is this one right here, that looks like. Any of you music people know what this? It doesn't look like something in music. It's called a garan in Thai, and for instance, the word computer uses one of those, and so Thai is made up from several languages, which I've gotten into before, so it's Pali, Sanskrit, and something else. I forget what the third one is. And the reason why they have a lot of these words the way they do is so they can technically transliterate back. But they do the same thing to English, too. So they'll write the word, with Thai characters, but they'll spell it the English way, where computer, if you know how, if you're hearing me say it, I don't say computer, I say computer. And the reason why I do that is because in Thai, there is a vowel that makes an sound. That's its own vowel that Thai has that English doesn't really have. Their closest equivalent in English would be an ER, but that makes an sound, like gur. Whenever Thai people try and say something with an ER at the end of it, I tell them to growl. And that conversation doesn't usually go very well. It goes funny. It goes funny. But now I know why. So what they do is they still write it computer, but they have an R, the rarua, at the end. But above that rarua, they'll use this symbol, which means that letter, when you pronounce it in Thai, is silent, but the word is still spelt in a way where you can see that it's used this way. There's a restaurant that I went to recently called. It's really cool when you know how to learn Thai, because it's called Pet Mak, which when you hear that, it means very spicy. But the way that Mak was spelt, typically it's Moma Sera Gokai, but which is basically MAK. Gakkai. Gakkai is a weird one because it's like a G but kind of like a K too, depending on where it is in the consonant. Because Thai also has different rules if a letter is at the end of a consonant. So Thais won't pronounce long letters at the end of consonants. Thais also won't, like for instance, if it ends with an S, Thais won't like face. Well, face doesn't end it with an S, but it makes an S sound. Thais don't pronounce S's at the end of consonants. They don't drag out that last S. They don't have air. They don't aspirate at the end of the syllables like that. So what they do is they change it to like a T sound. So with the gak guy, it sounds more like a K at the end, but you still don't puff air out. If you put your hand in, I think actually I've done this before on a previous episode. If you put your hand in front of your mouth as you say something and you feel the puff of an air at an end of the consonant, you're probably pronouncing that wrong. Anyway, back to this example of pet mak. So this, rather than being basically the equivalent of M-A-K, it's M-A-R-K, because a gentleman by the name of Mark Wiens was I don't know if he's the inspiration or the creator of this restaurant. He's
the owner.
Okay, he is actually the owner.
Yeah.
He's famous in Thailand for food stuff. Probably the biggest food vlogger in Thailand, or maybe even this part of the world.
Yeah. You could just stuff all around the world as well, or
Yeah.
did before COVID.
He likes really spicy stuff. So it's actually, the restaurant is very spicy, or it's spicy Mark, because pet is the word for spicy. But they have the ra rua in there, so Mark. But Thais would never pronounce it Mark. That would be a really strange sound for them. But they've got that garon in there, so you know that you don't pronounce that letter. But sometimes there's no garon. So sometimes there's not that character in there that you realize, oh, it's silent. So sometimes there's letters that just have a rarua in there, and that rarua is silent. And this is where you have to learn about clusters. So consonant clusters. So in English, we have what are called true clusters, where, like for instance, trip. You pronounce the T and the R kind of as one thing, tr. So in Thai, unless you're saying the English word for trip, you don't pronounce it like that. A T or an R, totahan, which is one of the many T's, because Thai has like 7 different T's if you count the the T's that are for rising tone and the T's that are for mid-tone. But anyway, if you use totahan plus rarua, it doesn't make a tr sound unless it's talking about a non-native Thai word. So instead, it turns it into an S sound. Or, in the example of the word ting, like really is the English equivalent to jing, like jing jing, which means yes, real, like really, or jinglo, which means like really. That word is spelt. So if I spell it with English letters, it would be Jring. But you do not pronounce the R in there, and there is no garon in there. So again, this gets weird with the exceptions. Another kind of cluster is when you have this, which is a popla, which is a letter that is very difficult for most English speakers because it's a non-aspirated P sound, which they have other letters that are aspirated P sounds where you P, but this one is not. They write BP, blah, Again, it's one of those things where if you put your finger or your hand in front of your mouth and you feel air, you're doing it wrong. So you have that plus Rarua plus Sarah E, which in English, if you had those, BRI or PRI, we would be pre. No, it's not that. It's bori. There's like a O sound in there that's like just added. Then we have other hidden vowels. So for instance, the Thai word for milk, which is also the Thai word for breast too. So be careful when you're ordering milk at a restaurant with a waitress that is very well endowed.
Can I get never mind. Can I get a cup of that, please?
Yeah. So, don't just avoid saying
just don't say nom suai.
Yeah, or nom yai. Don't say that.
God.
Don't say that. You do not order a large milk.
That is a TWIL the more you know right there. Do not say
I mean,
order
you
titty
could
milk.
probably, if you, again, it's context. So if you say, ko ao nam yai noi nakrap, that would be a very polite way of asking. So it would be probably insinuated that you're not asking for breast. But as you can see, well, okay, if you're familiar a little bit with the letters, this is a nanu, which is an N sound. This is a moma, which these letters, when you start learning Thai, oh man, you get these mixed up all the time. Anyway.
Oh, I understand that. I get them mixed up all the time too. Just constantly, I don't know which one is which.
And
you also be very careful if you use the Thai word for oyster. You got to be careful with that one too.
Kind of. I know where you're going with that. But that's you're mispronouncing oyster if you use the other word.
I thought he said oyster very well.
Yeah. Thai.
No.
Also, as if you're asking for hot sauce, I think we've actually talked about that before on the show. So, this does not have an O in there. Sarah O kind of looks like a Rarua, but bigger, and the head or the little loopy thing is on the other side with the Sarah O. But this one is a shorter O. So, if we go back to my... Oh, that's the wrong thing. If you know that I'm negative for COVID on that date. If go back to an O, you'll see that the O... So this is the example of an O, which it doesn't make an aw, it makes an O. Or this makes an O. Now they have this here. As you can see, there's no vowel. It's the absence of that. So what that is if you have those two letters, you have two letters like that together, there's a hidden O in there. For instance, where I live, the station, or actually a better word for that.
There's a hidden O where you live?
Yeah, well, the word for street, tanon, actually has a hidden O. Or, if you want snacks, kanom. Kanom actually has two hidden vowels in there. So this is a kokai, which is it makes a K sound essentially, but it also means that it's going to be rising tone, and tones are a whole nother thing that I could do another whole episode on how to determine tones in Thai and where to go. I'm trying to condense like a month's worth of learning in a very short period. Anyway, so if you have this, and then there's actually a hidden A, kanom, in there, like a very small Sera A in there. And then there's also a Sera O in there as well. So you have letters like this, which if you have K, N, and M in English, that makes nothing. Like, where are the vowels? I need the vowels. They're hidden. That's where they are.
Fucking hidden vowels.
Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, that's what I've been learning over the last few weeks. So I guess it isn't really this week I'm learning, since we're
This month I'm
a
learning.
bit past. Yeah, last month I'm learning, actually, is what this was.
Tamil.
God, it's really rough when you're trying to read all of that, like, after you, like, I just got a handle on, like, reading tones and understanding what tone this is gonna be, depending on which letter it ends with and which letter it begins with, and or if it uses a tone marker, if it's a live consonant or if it's a live syllable or a dead syllable, all of that, and then you finally get to, like, oh wait, there's more. And I'm sorry, if you have a tatahan and a rarua, that makes an S sound. Enjoy. Just enjoy. Thank you. So, yes, I was wrong. But I would still say there's less, even with all of these weird things, there's still less ambiguity in it than English. With specifically with the vowel sounds. So when you have the vowel sounds in Thai, they really they do sound the way that they look. Like, this will always be a short I sound, both of these. The problem is when you have multiple things that can make the same sound, or even the same tone sound. For instance, if you have I'm not gonna get into it because I have to teach some prerequisites for this part with the tones.
That's a 102 class. We're not there yet.
Let's move on.
Technically, this is a 103, and the 102 is before this. But the problem with writing Thai, where reading Thai is a little bit easier, because when you write, there's words, homonyms, so there's words that sound the same, but depending on what they use, they mean different things. So I still find myself looking up the spelling of words quite a bit in order to do my homework. But it's still fun, still interesting. I'm
I would
still
hope so.
happy to be learning and happy to surprise people and talk to, like, if there's an hour-long taxi ride, I don't have a problem, like, speaking Thai for that entire taxi ride. Like, there's some words and
good.
concepts that I will struggle with specifics during that, but otherwise, like, aside from one or two things that I have to be like, okay, wait, how do I say this in Thai? And then kind of think about it for a minute or two. I a average conversation I can still get through without too much of an issue. If I am leading the conversation, it's not too much of a problem. If they are leading the conversation, there's a potential for them to lead there somewhere where I don't quite have the vocabulary for what it is, but I can usually get around if they start talking a little bit simpler to me. Yeah, it's been fun. It totally changes what you can learn from people in Thailand. Totally changes. Even the basic level that I'm at, like, knowing Thai.
I can imagine understanding what other people are saying is a good way to learn. And
yeah, and also
I can
cultural
imagine.
aspects. Like, knowing, for instance, the word for so religion in Thai, which would be sasana. The word for to believe a religion isn't the same thing as, like, I believe in ghosts. It's the word for respect. So naptu sasana, or naptu auso, which would be so sasana is religion, auso is elders. So it's more of a respect word than a I have this belief word. So judging by that, that changes the way that people view different things when they use different words for that, and that word has different uses. So it's interesting to pick up like that cultural aspect and what is more important to people. And obviously, number one is food.
Food's a good
Hell
thing
yeah.
to have high
Fuck yeah.
importance of.
Okay.
Yep.
Food, motherfucker.
So who is?
So I think it's Colton is next, talking about
Yes.
a place from a place of some sort of reference that he said that I don't get, and maybe he'll say it and I'll get it, or maybe I won't, and I'll still be a sad little man.
We shall
Is it
see.
our place?
Brandon, stop ruining my topics.
I have to get you back for what, 2 or 3 times ago when you were just like,
you already got me back for that. Just saying is all I'm saying. So, I wanted to start this off with a bit of a pre-topic, actually. It's a little bit of background, if you will. Have you guys ever heard of emergence? This is in regards to physics, biology, society. It is arguably one of the coolest properties of our universe. Emergence. Any idea? Any guesses?
I have heard of it, and it has
Like
to
the
do with
emergence
like
of life, or
Can.
it's about patterns.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Well, think about an ant colony. So you have thousands of individual entities coming together in a sort of hive mind without any direct communication, where the intelligence of the hive mind is arguably greater than the creative and combined intelligence of the ants themselves. So life can be argued as emergent as, you have atoms that create molecules, molecules that create tissue, tissue which creates humans, and humans that create society. Another idea is water molecules have very different properties from water itself. So you have smaller things that combined into a bigger thing that has completely different properties, if that kind of makes sense at that scale. That's kind of what emergence is, if that makes any sense.
And the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell.
Hell yeah, you got a point for using that in your daily life. So even human thought can actually be seen as an emerging system, because from neurons, hormones, fat, water, and salt, and a little salt, you can get conscious, soul, whatever you want to call it. And this actually leads me into my main topic that Brandon already ruined. It is a place on the internet that is ironically called r/place. Specifically, it is a Reddit thread that was created on April 1st, 2017 as a simple social experiment. Users on the thread are given a collaborative canvas, and I think this one is around 1,000 by 1,000 pixels. And the users could place one pixel on the canvas every 5 to 20 minutes or so, and it's completely random. Cody, what is wrong with your camera?
It does that thing every once in a while.
Whoa.
Do not mind the camera.
The eyes are just like...
It's okay. Ignore the camera.
All
Ignore
right.
it.
So, users had a palette of 16 colors to choose from. The experiment lasted about 4 days, and it was an interesting snapshot of internet culture in 2017. It started off kind of slow because it was a brand new concept at the time, but it quickly went viral on Reddit. Different communities started coordinating to create works of art, from the Mona Lisa to Sans from Undertale. When Reddit shut it down, there were roughly about 90,000 viewers using and placing tiles at the time they shut it down, and around 16 million pixels were placed in a span of 4 days, one at a time. So, unfortunately, I couldn't find this, but I've seen a time-lapse of the event, and it's actually super freaking cool to watch. It was like watching ants scurrying around the canvas, viruses taking over anything, gray goo taking over the world. It was super, super cool. Towards the end of the experiment, several quote-unquote cults came about where people were just trying to blue out the canvas, which you can kind of see. Just randomly, people decided, we're going to put blue pixels and just start ruining everything. You have the blue pixels down here. You have the green lattice up here, which is a weird thing that these are all Reddit threads, by the way. There's the /blue/green lattice, and it was just like a virus slowly taking over the screen. Let's see here. Bots were prevalent, but many publications at the time called r/place the best social experiment ever done on the internet. And now I bring this up specifically because on March 28th, 2022, Reddit announced a new canvas, 2,000 pixels by 1,000 pixels, and users could actually choose from 32 colors. And if you guys look in the Discord, and there should be a link of the actual screenshot of the completed 2022 one. It started on April 1st and lasted 4 days again. It is officially over. It ended on April 4th, 5th, depending on where you are around the world. And this time I actually got to participate because I knew about it, actually, and I placed about 5 pixels. So I contributed to this internet culture in this case, so I'm super happy. Unfortunately, I think my whole thing was just because it's the internet, so it's full of trolls and stuff, so my thing was anyone would put an asshole pixel, I would clean it up. That's all I was doing. It was kind of cool. Again, because the whole canvas was vibrating with random pixels showing up, things being destroyed, it was super cool in real time. So it was super cool to see different internet communities sort of fight it out for supremacy. I think the Reddit moderators were a little bit more involved in this experiment versus the one in 2017 because there seems to be a little bit more order, a bit more squares, a bit more separation between the communities, but not as much as it would actually seem. It was still kind of free form, just a bit more controlled in the way. So, I mean, you could take a look at it. I highly recommend. It's absolutely amazing.
Costa Rica, Pura Vida, which means good life.
Some people, what did they create? Like my favorite one, there's a One Piece, like a One Piece thing somewhere, kind of in the. Yeah, it's kind of hard to see on mine. You can find it. It's about, I don't know, 150 pixels big. It's kind of big. There's a whole painting or remake of the Great Wave off of Kanagawa. Or Kanagawa, you know, the famous tsunami?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, the famous tsunami painting from Japan. There's there's a Obi-Wan and Anakin sword fight, lightsaber duel thing going on. And this is
Quebec,
just the third.
Definitely, I see a Quebec nationalist area there,
yeah.
for sure.
I mean, yeah you see...
with the Canadians hockey team.
Yeah, so you see just so many... unbelievably, it's actually a beautiful work of art. It's a tapestry of where we are right now. I mean, you see Ukrainian flags. You see a lot of countries are represented. The impressive work of pixel art in all of these is just unbelievable. I freaking love it.
Yep.
So, as I said, the internet's full of amazing people and creative people, but also a lot of trolls and assholes, which is probably why the Reddit moderators were a bit more involved. Because I want to say, if I remember correctly, the 2017 version had some, it's the internet, so you can imagine some nefarious dudes putting some stupid shit on there. But, go ahead.
The one thing that, in some ways, I'm looking through this as I'm saying this. I kind of wish that it was the exact same rules, the exact same hands-offness or hands-onness as the 2017 one, because then it would be interesting to see if society itself has gotten more disjointed or more together since 2017, and that would be interesting.
That is a criticism of this experiment versus the first one, just because, I mean, the internet is the internet's going to internet.
Yeah, this
so
one's more beautiful.
I think Reddit's trying to protect themselves a little bit this time.
There was still some epic battles going on.
Yeah, but, I mean, that's also the fact that this one has more moderation is kind of an interesting societal statement on its
If
own.
there's a little bit of control and a little bit of a bigger picture idea, I mean, it's if you get a little bit of
you
organization,
can take that
if you
multiple
will.
ways. You can
I know,
take
but a
that
little bit of
multiple ways.
organization, you can. It's a combination of, again, that emergence of smaller things coming to create a bigger tapestry in this case, or just I don't know. It's honestly very cool. If anybody out there has a few minutes, I would definitely suggest taking a few minutes to enjoy, well, a snapshot of the internet in 2022 at r/place on Reddit. Because honestly,
Yeah.
I could spend like an hour just going through it, because this even when I do full screen of this, it does not show the level of detail that these people were able to create. So
Yeah.
it's cool shit.
Yeah, this is both of them are incredible. Like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is in different ways. Like, yeah, but definitely the time. If you could find a GIF or a video of the timeline of it actually being created, it's super cool.
oh, I like how
people-
this Windows like XP start.
Yeah, at the
Video
bottom.
at the
Yeah, the
bottom.
Windows XP.
Oh, that's incredible.
I love how the German flag, which could be seen as some bad stuff in some ways because it's the internet. You got the German flag going all the way across. They don't have the Rainbow Road, which is kind of sad compared to the 2017 one.
Yeah,
but
that's
all right.
some of the stuff that I wish.
But
Maybe they
here's-
should do 2 per year, like one that's totally freeform, and then one that whatever the same guidelines are, and then
I think they what's the term? Advertise it a lot more this time. Like if you were on the Reddit app during that time, the actual icon on the Android was the icon for the r/place. So I think part of it is a lot more people were involved. It wasn't as surprising, so they all were able to coordinate a little better. I think most people were did want some of these works of art, like no one touched, even griefing it, and there were a lot of people protecting different things as well if they're really good. So utterly fascinating. Take a look, guys.
Okay.
Did you weigh in on the lttstore.com war?
Yeah, I'm for lttstore.com.
Oh, see, I was
I
kept
was a
changing
griefer
it back
there.
to .com. But
It's fun.
did
It's fun.
so by the time this show airs, it'll be gone. But did you go get their LTT store is actually doing a limited edition shirt?
Yeah, I'm hoping to get it. I don't think it's gone, actually. I think I still have it.
I
is it-
think
well,
it's
maybe
only
it is.
I think it's only for a week.
Fuck. Well,
I
well.
I ordered
Shit.
one.
nice.
I ordered one because
It's
that was
it's fun. It's so
I
cool to see
probably
these communities
did, like-
come together.
Yeah, I did like 10 or 20, like, right at the top of the O where everybody was trying to make it a U.
Yeah, it was constantly going back and forth. That one I
And I
griefed a little
also-
bit. I griefed a little bit because it was fun.
Fair enough. And then I was also keeping the German flag clean. And then there was a Voyager Starfleet
Star-
Delta from Star
shit.
Trek, and I kept like checking LTT store, checking the German flag, and then also Star Citizen had a thing on there too that I kept.
Star
Oh,
Citizen,
Like that
Overwatch,
was my rotation.
Undertale, all the flags are probably the
Elite
best part if you
Dangerous.
think about it. Elite Dangerous I saw. Apex Legends is on there. As I
Wait,
said, anime
where's
is
Star Citizen?
represented.
Man,
It's
this is
utterly beautiful.
incredible.
It's a beautiful thing. Like it really is when you get down to it
Yeah,
and just go
poster.
through. Yeah, I'm going to get the poster. That I'm going to get because it's just cool
Oh,
to
there's a-
have. Yeah, they're going to
somebody
sell this
selling
shit.
it above.
Someone's going to make money on this, of course. But even though simple things like putting pixels on a canvas can be simple, sometimes the choices are not. Do you care to elaborate, Tim?
Okay, here we go. I'll try to. Forget it. It's gonna
Don't
be
worry
long.
about it.
Okay.
It's been a
Okay,
while
so
since we've had a long episode.
With current prices, I can't justify a gaming computer, but I can improve what I already own. Currently, I'm using a 4-year-old Dell gaming laptop. As I try to get back into gaming, I've noticed a disadvantage in using the laptop's built-in keyboard. I'm also concerned with being too hard on the keyboard with the intensity of gaming actions on the same keys. So it was time to add an external keyboard. And like this might be no news for you guys, but man, this is all news for me. And this really led me down a rabbit hole of what is out there. First, of course, there's the membrane keyboards, which are the same as laptops and many basic office workstations, which are perfectly fine keyboards for their purpose. However, they don't provide the same feedback as the mechanical counterparts.
And also
Till
the
this time,
lifespan, too.
Okay. Till this time, I never realized there were two main types. Now, the next thing I learned about mechanical keyboards is that there are many, many choices in switches. They're divided into three categories of linear, tactile, and clicky switches. There are many different companies making switches, and I can't cover them all. I'll break down the main ones from, say, Cherry. There's Razer, Logitech. They have their own standards. Many other manufacturers for high-end enthusiastic design, Gateron, Novel Keys, Tangerine, Holy Pandas, Glorious Pandas, Boba, Ergo Clears, Box J's, Navies, Whites, Speed Rons. The choices are freaking insane. But they are rated by the stiffnesses of the springs to the bumps or clicks felt as the key travels to the bottom and back. There can also be a difference in how far the key is depressed to activate it. So clicky switches are most like the old electric and manual typewriters in their feel and auditory feedback. A lot of people don't like them as they're very loud. However, there's no one type of switch for everyone. It's entirely individual taste. So in Cherry MX switches, there are four main types. Blue, brown, black, red, MX green, clear, three types of gray, and speed switches. Within the three main types, they're further separated by the force curve, or the force required to activate them, or the activation distance. This gets rather confusing. Here are some examples of linear. Linear is probably the most popular key style. It is also quieter than the clicky switches, and the force level is linear. They respond to repeated clicks required in gaming very well. So for Cherry, I could say I'm only covering Cherry, but be aware there's many other manufacturers out there, Logitech and Razer, and then all the other ones I mentioned. Cherry MX Red, Cherry MX Black, Cherry MX Linear Gray, Spacebar, which are usually they're only used in the spacebar, Cherry MX Super Black, and then you get into your tactile. This switch will oppose the motion for a brief moment and has a bump that the connector needs to pass to complete the circuit. These switches are considered a good compromise between gaming and typing. And examples of those are Cherry MX Brown, Razer Orange, Omron Logitech Roamer G, Cherry MX Clear, and Cherry MX Tactile Gray. Clicky mechanical switches. The slider is two pieces, a plunger and a floating piece that touches a filament. The plunger will push the floating piece downward. The filament closes the circuit with a click. When the plunger rises, it pulls the piece above the filament and resets the action. This is a noisy process, and it's deliberate. It's favored by typists who can learn to hear the click and train themselves to not bottom out the key. In this category, we have Cherry MX Green. It's a moderate clicky one and has a bit of a bump in the click. Cherry MX Blue Light, Cherry MX White. For Razer, there's Razer Green and Cherry MX Click Gray. I'm actually speaking to this a lot faster than I thought it was. There are many other variations within the Cherry line, as well as the other manufacturers, and some try to combine characteristics of the different types. Plus, they vary the activation distance and the pressures. Now, pre-built keyboards can come with your choice of switches or a combination of switches, using one type for the main keys and another for the spacebar, and enter key, etc. You can also enter down the rabbit hole of building your own keyboard by buying different components, combining the board size with the switches and keycaps of your choice. Boards come in different sizes. The ones where you solder on the switches or hot swappable switches. Be aware for gaming there are different board sizes, some of them being the 60%, 65%, 75%, TKL or 10 keyless, which is also considered an 80%, 1800 layout, and full size or 104 keys. But that depends on whether it's a UK or US layout. Then there's ANSI or ISO keyboards, which concerns the shape of the entry key, among other things. It also ANSI or ISO also have different number of keys. One's more of a European and one's more of a North American standard. The ANSI being what we're mostly used to in North America. But this comes really important to know if you're buying replacement keycaps, because you could end up buying the wrong set. And Corsair was one of the manufacturers of, I guess you'd call retail keyboards. And they also use a non-standard bottom row. So if you're looking for replacement keycaps, you have to be careful about that as well. Then there's keycaps. There is different surface shapes for keycaps. There are different row shapes. There's uniform and sculpted. There's different keycap heights. And there's profiles such as SA, OEM, Cherry, XDA, DSA, KAT, KAM, and G20. Then there's different materials, ABS and PBT being amongst them. And like I say, it's quite the rabbit hole. I looked at the idea of building my own board, but being in Thailand, it's a bit harder to source the components at a reasonable price. I mean, it could get really expensive. I think it's a really expensive hobby to build your own as it is.
I would assume that if you try and go with something like Cherry, if you try and go with the name brand one, that it would be more expensive here. But like from what I've seen in Thailand with electronics is if you're okay with going with the weird brand that that North Americans have never heard of, it could be substantially cheaper and maybe only a minor hit to quality. It depends.
It's a hit or miss.
Yeah, you have to do a bunch of research and probably some in native language too, to really determine
the problem with ordering things from China and these components, some of those keyboards may be hidden gems, but some of them are not. Or you get one that's everybody says is good, but then other factories copy the same design, and then it's just not the same.
Or the quality
So,
control between
anyways.
things. Yeah.
So I started to get overwhelmed. What size keyboard do I buy? Do I buy
General rule is do you want a
retail one? Yeah,
That's kind of what I tell people. Do you want a numpad?
Right.
If you don't,
Yeah.
don't worry about it. It's not that big a deal either way.
I'll tell you what I went with. I went with a full-size keyboard, and this part of the reason is so my wife can also use the Thai English keycaps when she needs to do a report in Thai on her laptop, because we found that was a problem. She had to do some translation and write things into Thai, but all our computers have only English keycaps on them.
Okay.
So I bought a keyboard that has both, but I also have ordered replacement keycaps in English only, which I'm going to use the majority of the time. And if the odd time she needs to use a keyboard with her laptop and type in Thai, then I'll just put the keycaps back on. What I got is a Corsair RGB Mark II rapid fire with Cherry MX speed switches. And I really like it. But I think I'd also like to look for a 65% keyboard so I can save space, because my desk is way too small and I'm having a problem finding room. I've got to rearrange it. Now, I guess it goes crazy. There's so many variations. If you want to build your own, then do you lubricate your keys? Because there's actually people who lubricate their keys. Do you use copper, aluminum as the backplane? I mean, which printed circuit board do you buy?
Switches,
there's optical switches. Oh,
keyboard culture has really blown up in the last 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
Some like a lot of the tech YouTubers I follow, they'll do like setup presentations from random people that it's just in pictures, and that's
Right.
kind of the big thing is the keyboard. You can customize the keyboard in terms of color to match the entire setup that you have, and you couldn't do that very long ago, at least without spending a pretty penny. And now it's still expensive, but it's as you've already said, the amount of stuff you could possibly buy, the amount of stuff you could freaking customize is just unbelievable. It's amazing. I'm probably
there's a lot of Kickstarters for some of these things too that you have to get in if you want a certain component, because there's always limited editions.
15 years ago, there was a real famous one in the tech community called the Optimus Maximus keyboard, and every key had its own individual LCD screen on it, so you could customize on the fly. So your whole Thai English thing wouldn't be a problem. Just load the profile for Thai, load the profile for English. You're done. Brilliant. You don't have to replace keycaps, because you can make a customized key that is a launcher for a game that has that icon for the game. And some keyboards have actually taken that and are now doing kind of that on the side. Like, technically the Elgato Stream Deck, not Steam Deck, does kind of that type of thing. Also, as a side note, I put in the production channel on Discord, I found the GIFs of the key actuations in there. So
I will. Nice. We will definitely put that up.
Yeah. So actually, I just realized I said I got a Corsair RGB Mark II, but it's actually a Corsair K70 RGB Mark II with the MX speed switches.
I've never used the speed switches.
I love it.
I'm familiar with like the big three: the blues, the reds, and the browns. I've never really looked at the other ones. I might have to, just to see. I don't know if I would care enough, but maybe I would, because I spend most of my life at this fucking keyboard. So it might be nice.
I was considering the browns or the reds.
Browns all the way, baby.
Then I saw this one, and I thought, I'll give it a try. And actually, it's making a big difference in my typing. I know this is more probably a gaming switch, but it definitely is making a fast improvement on my typing over.
For some weird reason, a lot of people love the blues for typing, and I think they're the worst things in the world for typing. They're too loud, too much effort.
Love
for typing, the blues are the best. For gaming, I'm glad.
I don't want to. I'll get a fucking typewriter if I want to hear my fucking keyboard.
That tactile click for typing is amazing, but for gaming, it's terrible. It is the worst thing ever.
But the reds, you have no way of knowing when you've hit the key. You're just
easy if you complete the action, if you do the action or not, you know.
Yeah, so you have to go the full actuation.
If you have to go caffeine finger on it, you can do that with the reds. You cannot do that with the blues, because you have to wait for a full reset of that key each time with the blue to hit that actuator, because if it only resets that much on a red, that's not a problem, but on a blue, if it doesn't hit that, to then reset it down.
So with the speeds, the activation force is only 45 grams, and the activation distance is 1.2 millimeters. So you definitely do not have to. I think it's 2.1 or something like that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I know my laptop uses a variation of reds, kind of, because it's laptop keys, but with an optical sensor in there. So it's not actually the key hitting a conductive piece. There's actually a sensor that sees when it does it.
Sees when the light is broken.
Yeah.
I think it's
I'm sure mine is membrane.
On. Yeah.
And the framework has a more tactile keyboard.
Oh, nice.
See, that's it, because I like on a laptop. I do like a little bit of loudness in a laptop, as weird as that is, but not on my desktop. I like a little tiny click, so I know it's there, but I don't. I need to know that I'm hitting something. Otherwise, I'm just. What am I doing? What am I doing?
And honestly, that's why there's so many different options, because we all have different opinions. I think the browns feel too mushy. I think the compromise is weird, but that's for me.
Linux Tech Tips, they took their whole staff and they put a bunch of different keyboards, switches in front of them, and they had them. Everybody went through it and said which one they like, which one they don't like. some of them ended up picking the type of key that they already use, and other ones discovered ones that were different. But it was like hardly anybody was the same. Everybody had
Yeah.
different preferences.
It's like we have so much choice, like in terms of it's the mattresses. I want one that's a little bit softer right here. Need a little more support under my thumbs for the space bar.
Yeah.
You know how it is.
Yeah.
I got bigger thumbs. I need some support.
But I gotta tell you, I just touched the basics. There's so many variations, and there's so many exceptions, and
You didn't even get into like USB connecting cords. Braided,
oh
do
yeah,
you want a plastic? Do
yeah,
you want
yeah.
it's hardwired? I've seen that for some stupid ass reason.
Wireless.
Some people
Wireless,
swear
of course.
only a copper backplane is good. They say that they don't want like aluminum, and my
How
god,
high do you want it to be? How high do you
yeah,
want
yeah, the key height, yeah, some keys are
If you
higher.
want
Yeah,
to just leave,
Hi, Seeker.
if you want to just go away, yeah, there's also that too.
yeah. So like I said, that was definitely not what I expected. You guys suggest, oh, get a mechanical keyboard. You didn't warn me about this.
Yeah, we didn't warn you partly because you might have suffered like decision paralysis of just like, oh my god,
No. That's me. Whenever I have to get something, I'm freaking try to research. Well, if you can call it research, I try to search out as much as I can. Like buying microphones was another story that took me down a long way. I've watched so many YouTube videos and yeah, just for buying a microphone and
Tim, I enjoy how thorough you go with these. It's definitely interesting.
Yep. And your background absolutely makes sense because you dove deep down the rabbit hole.
Yep.
So that is my topic, and I hope I didn't read it too fast, but
No, that's
there's lots there.
Perfect.
I'll have the links, a few links.
And
not all of them.
Fine. Put them all. Fuck it.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh no,
It doesn't cost us anymore.
And the moral
I'll give you about 5.
To me, the moral
just to open people's eyes.
The moral of this whole thing that you're talking about, Tim, is that a keyboard is not really something that you can order online and be okay with, unless you really don't care. I lived in a small town before, so we didn't have the luxury of going to the store and feeling each keyboard. So what I did when I was living, in Colorado is I actually ordered. They had a sample set of Cherry MX keys, and at that time, that sample set was only, I think, 6 or 8 keys.
Was it that many? I thought it was 5.
No, I had white, green, black, red, brown, blue. White, green, black, red, brown. So 6. Yeah. And that helped me a little bit, but actually being able to go, at that time, Colton had a Cherry MX blue keyboard. And I thought, oh, for sure, I want the blues. I want the blues. And I went to his house and I'm like, I got to play like Unreal Tournament on this to see if I really like it. I absolutely hated the blues for Unreal Tournament. Like, loved them for typing. The feeling of the blues is amazing. But for me, for gaming, it was terrible. Now again, each different personality, the different muscle memory, it's gonna be different for each person. So really, I encourage people.
Some people have a lighter touch or a heavier touch.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly, because you really need to try and test this out as much as possible, because
I'm gonna have to do that I'm gonna have to do that when I look for a 65% one.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm gonna have to do that in Bangkok.
Yeah. Even, I mean, you can go to Market Village and they've got a few of them there. But
yeah, they'll probably have some Razer keyboards, 1 or 2, and stuff like that. But Yeah, they don't have a huge selection for keyboards.
I remember trying out that blue keyboard and loving it. And Colton actually ended up giving it to me as a birthday gift. I still have it. It's just now it's used by my son. That's what he games on. He loves it. But I remember like Cody got his Cherry MX red keyboard and was like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever for gaming. And I just, because I rest my hands and I've got fat hands, I'm a big guy.
Be them supported keys.
And like I would just like barely rest, like just comfortably rest my fingers on the keys. And like my character would just start like drifting to the side. I was like, what are you doing? I'm not pressing D. Why are you doing this? And I would just like lift my finger totally off the D key and it
You
stopped
looked at the
drifting.
D
It's
key
like,
too hard with the reds, so they just love to be actuated. They love being touched.
So you need a
Cody,
heavy
if you ever
key.
get a chance, and you see a 65% keyboard that has a hot swappable board, that's what
Oh yeah,
Mm.
that's easy.
try.
oh
I
yeah,
know
they
exactly
have
where you
them.
can find one, at least online and here. But
Yeah, because
I don't know if you guys,
you can play
I don't
around
know
with it.
if Mass Drop does anything in Thailand, but Mass Drop would
Mass
be
drop. It's
like
called
the
drop now. To
thing.
be fair,
Oh,
it's not mass drop for
I
reasons
don't know.
unknown.
I stopped drooling at that site because it seemed like every time I would go on there and I'm like, oh, that those headphones. I want those headphones. Oh, that
Do I
mechanical
really need
keyboard.
to
That would be
eat
the
this
best
month?
thing
Do
ever.
I really need to pay rent? Do I really?
I
need
mean,
to?
I could eat ramens, and Luke likes ramen noodles.
You can just cut the toes out of Luke's shoes, and he can still wear them as he grows.
Sorry, kid, you're gonna have to wait until next year for that surgery. Daddy wants a new
Alright.
pair of headphones.
Nope. All right, and on that depressing note, I think we should call it an episode.
Yes.
So, Tim, where can we find you?
On Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, Our Thai Journey.
Awesome. Colton, where can we find you?
The name is Colton Roper. You can find me on all the socials as Seeker4761, as well as on twitch.tv/Seeker4761.
This is how long
Go
he's
there.
gonna
Or
talk
don't.
like Captain Kirk.
Seeker4761, engage. Cody, engage.
Oh, I am Cody Stratman. Apparently now warped in or teleported in. I guess warped in or warped to. Anyway, which Kirk doesn't say that.
No, he doesn't. That's a Picard thing.
You've like mixed the two into some abomination.
I know.
Oh my God, I'm doing the Kirk now.
Actually, I forgot about that for a
I
second. I
am
forgot
Cody
that he
Stratman.
doesn't say
I'm
that.
a rock it man.
Right now, you can
Deep
be
fried turkey.
in Thailand learning Thai.
I have something to talk about after.
God, I can't stop. I can't stop. You can find me on the Insta as Zito Valder. You can find me on YouTube as Striving to Fail. You can't really find me on there. You can kind of find me on there. And you can find me on Steam as Psychonitrous. Be my friend. Let's play games together. Especially if you're near Southeast Asia. I need more gaming buddies too. Yes. Or
We're not enough for him anymore.
You're on the wrong.
And I am Brandon Vader, also known as Captain Dracanus. You can find me. I actually started streaming last week, Wednesday, with the guy down there. And we're going to try and actually make that a regular thing. We're going to...
Way Out Wednesday.
Way Out Wednesday. We're going to mostly play sci-fi-ish games. At least that's how it's going to start.
Aircraft, stuff that's out there. Because
Out
we
there.
are practicing our marketing skills.
Yep. Because why not?
Mhm.
But yeah, you can find me on Twitch as... Oh, God. What is my Twitch? I don't actually know. I think it's Captain Dracanus. It may be Capt Dracanus. CAPT. Yeah, I'll link in the description.
Study notes.
Yep, study notes. You can also find me on YouTube as the Tech Pirate, where hopefully I should be putting more stuff up, especially now that I have this new fancy framework laptop that I already am falling in love with. And yeah, then also the techpirate.net, of course. And yeah, I think that's where we'll call it. Thanks for joining us on this episode of This Week I'm Learning. You can find us wherever you listen to your podcasts, as well as on YouTube at This Week I'm Learning. For your social media peeps out there, you can find us on Twitter at This12 if you'd like to contact us. You can, of course, send an email to twitter@techpirate.net. We'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.
Have you guys ever seen the video? I think it's a video of, it's like a remix song of, who's Captain Kirk? William Shatner. He talks about deep frying a turkey.
What?
Oh my god. 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 Hey, let me find it.
William Shatner.
Where is it?
Deep frying a turkey. Isn't that supposed to be like the most dangerous thing to do or something?
Can be for sure.
Probably in terms of. I'm not gonna play it here.
I think people put too much oil in those things, and then they put the turkey in and goes woof.
Oh, it's because they don't
Here.
let the turkey thaw.
It is putting
Mhm.
yeah, ice and water into boiling hot whatever it's called. Oil. Jesus. That's the word.
It's all right. I
Over
don't
here.
forget English too sometimes. I forgot the word for go-kart the other day. I was talking to this, old lady on the street, and I'm like talking to her in Thai, and then I'm like, because I don't know what go-kart is in Thai, like, rot lek lek, so I'm like, go. I'm like, wait, what is it called? Like, yeah. So I'm trying to describe this, like, oh, go-kart, like very small car.
This is going in the source notes. Is this song, by the way?
Yeah, that is.
Deep fried turkey, a moistened turkey.